Hello everyone, it's Scott, and we're back for day 10 of Tarkir DragonStorm Previews, and we've got a smaller number of cards to talk about, and we're almost through the entire set. We've got approximately 40 or so more cards to see in to Friday's mostly common dump, and we'll be back with a video for anything that's interesting from that. But before we dive into today's cards, remember to like and subscribe to get further content like this throughout Tarkir DragonStorm, spoiler season, and beyond. And starting over the weekend, I'll be doing some top 10 to top 20 list of cards that I think are going to have the most impact in Standard. So if you're looking for any cards from the set, you can always check us out on the web at caffeinatedgamers.tcgplayerpro.com to get all the cards that you might want from Tarkir DragonStorm. So let's look at our first card of the day, and that's Star of the Arena. For a red mana, you get a Goblin Warrior. That's a 1/1 with Mobilize 1, and whenever this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. And for 1 and a red mana, you can sacrifice this creature. This creature deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. So I like the fact that for 1 mana, you get a creature that is going to add creatures to the board every single time you attack. And even though those creatures are going to die at the end of the turn, it doesn't matter. You're getting another attacker, which is, in terms of combat math, that's helping you really push through hopefully some extra damage earlier in the game if your opponent can't deal with this early in the game. And I like the fact that for 1 mana, you're getting a card that's in essence creating something every single turn that's going to be of help to you in the game. Next, we've got Mardu Siegebreaker. For 1, a red, a white, and a black mana. You get a human warrior. That's a 4/4 with Death Touch and Haste. And when this creature enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 other target creature you control until this creature leaves the battlefield. When this creature attacks, for each opponent, create a tapped token that's a copy of the exile card attacking that opponent. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice those tokens. So interesting ability on Mardu Siegebreaker, where basically you can protect one of your cards by putting it under Mardu Siegebreaker, and then every time it attacks, you get to make a copy of that. So I like this ability on the card, and we've been talking about a Mardu token deck that is likely to see play in Standard, and I think this is a card that certainly is a consideration for that deck. And I do like the fact that it's any card, so you could put something really powerful under this, and every single turn you're going to get a copy of that. And if it has enter the battlefield triggers, those are going to trigger as well. So I think there's definitely a place for this in the right deck in Standard. Next, we've got Lotus Light Dancers. For 2, a black, a green, and a blue mana, you get Zombie Bards. They're 3/6 with lifelink, and whenever this creature enters the battlefield, search your library for a black card, a green card, and a blue card. Put those cards into your graveyard, then shuffle. So obviously you'll be using this Sultai card in a graveyard strategy where you're trying to get specific cards into your graveyard that you're going to be able to take advantage of. So if we do have a deck that really is trying to do something like that, hey, we want to get a very specific card into the graveyard, then I think this might have some outside chance to see Standard play. But for the most part, our graveyard decks are looking at low-cost cards, so I think this one's probably a little bit too expensive for that deck. All right, we got some lower rarity cards also to talk about today, and the first is Mammoth Bellow. For 2, a green, a blue, and a red mana, you get a sorcery where you create a 5/5 green elephant creature token. It also has Harmonize. For 5 and a green, a blue, and a red mana, you may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonized cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by X, where X is its power, then exile this spell. So basically you play Mammoth Bellow for 5 mana, you get a 5/5. The next turn, you can tap that 5/5 green elephant creature token to create another one. So I think there's potentially a place for this in Standard. if there is a ramp deck that you can ramp into this. But outside of that, I think this is something in limited that would certainly fit well into this style of deck. So I think this is going to be limited playable, definitely. Outside shot and maybe seeing a little bit of standard play. Next we have Defibrillating Current for a red, a white, and a black mana, or the hybrid 2 for each mana type you can't pay. It's a sorcery, and Defibrillating Current deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain 2 life. So limited playable only, where you're looking to get some removal. So I think in that situation, sure, you would consider using this. Next, we've got Wayspeaker Bodyguard for 3 and a white mana. You get an Orc Monk, that's a 3/4. And when this creature enters the battlefield, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. And it also has Flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, tap target creature an opponent controls. So in limited, I really like this, but I doubt that it will see any standard play. Next, we've got High Spire Bellringer for 2 and a blue mana. You get a Djinn Monk. That's a 1/4 with flying. And the second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. So I think in limited, whether it's sealed or draft, I think, certainly a card you might want to consider if you're trying to do cast your second spell strategies, because there's definitely a lot of cards in this set that care about casting your second spell, and this would be a way of reducing that cost. Next, we've got Delta Bloodflies for 1 and a black mana. You get an insect, that's a 1/2 with flying, and whenever this creature attacks, if you control a creature with a counter on it, each opponent loses 1 life. So, there's certainly a lot of cards in the set that get counters on this. So I think in limited, this is certainly a card that's worth considering. It's 2 mana, it has flying, and it has a benefit. If you can get a counter on some, probably going to be reasonable to do in limited. All right, next we've got 100 Battle Veteran for 3 and a black mana. You get a Zombie Warrior, that's a 4/2. And as long as there are 3 or more different kinds of counters among creatures you control, this creature gets +2/+4, and you may cast this card from your graveyard. If you do, it enters with a finality counter on it. So, interesting card here. I think it's definitely limited playable, because if you can get some counters on creatures you control or have different, any kind of counters in the game, then you're going to make this a 6/6, which for 4 mana is very good in limited. So I think under those circumstances, it will see limited play definitely if you build a deck that can get that, even as a 4/2 for 4. And the fact that you can cast it from its graveyard, I think makes it potentially playable in limited. Next, we've got Zurgo's Vanguard for 2 and a red mana. You get a Dog Soldier. That's a X3 with Mobilize 1. Whenever this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. This creature's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. So this is one of those cards that has kind of a low floor with it, where it's always going to be a 1/3 for 3 mana, but you do get that mobilize ability, so you're going to be attacking with it as a 2/3. But if you can get this on a pretty wide board, it might be 5 or 6 power. So in limited, I think this is certainly playable. Outside of that, I don't see it seeing standard play. Next, we have Shocking Sharpshooter for 1 and a red mana. You get a Human Archer. That's a 1/3 with reach. And whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. So in limited, I think this is a very good card, because we've got a lot of cards with Mobilize on them, where every single turn you're going to be creating creatures that are going to be able to attack. And every time you create one of those creatures, this Sharpshooter deals 1 damage to your opponent. And I think in the right build, and I'm thinking the Boros Convoke deck might want this, then I think this could be a really good card. And if it doesn't have to do 10 damage. If it does 3 or 4 damage over the course of a game, that might be just enough extra damage to help you win the game. So I think it's got some potential in Standard, particularly if it's in a deck that has a lot of mobilized cards in it, or other things that are going to create creatures that are attacking every single turn. And our last card of the day is Traveling Botanist. For 1 and a green mana, you get a Dog Scout. That's a 2/3. And whenever this creature becomes tapped, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. So it's kind of a surveil ability on it, but it's not saying surveil 1. But in essence, that's what it is. So certainly, I think in Limited, a good card probably won't see any Standard play at all. All right, well, those are our cards from day 10 of Tarkir DragonStorm. Thanks for staying to the end of the video, and remember to like and subscribe to get further content like this throughout Tarkir DragonStorm season and beyond. And be on the lookout for my top 10 list of cards I like at the different rarities from Tarkir DragonStorm. Thanks. I'll see you next time.